Good night, and welcome to Mindful Live 477. Yes. Welcome. I am your host, your co-host sometimes, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is presently 10:03 p.m. in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. 10:03 p.m. on the 20th of March. March is nearly done. Listen, how March reached the 20th day already? When did that happen? Who agreed to this? I feel like somebody needs to have a discussion with us about this. This is all moving too quickly. Once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok if you're wondering how to hit the like button and you're on your phone. You hit 2 swift taps of the screen, and the like will be hit, and you can do it again and 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 keep racking those likes up. Allow the algorithm to know, hey, some good stuff is going on out here. Same with YouTube. If you're looking at this on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're looking at it live, if you're looking at it on repeat, because if you ever miss any of the lives, feel free, make sure to subscribe. Actually, not feel free, make sure to subscribe to Nathan Springer over there on YouTube, where you can catch all of these lives. If you miss it, it's right there, along with some other videos too. It's not only the lives we do, there are some other videos that you can catch over there. Be sure to subscribe, drop a comment if you have something to say. Hit a like. I see you, Shiva Rajkumar. It's a Thursday, people. And on a Thursday we talk. I mean, much like what we do on every other day, really and truly, because talking is what I do in the live here. But Thursday, there are no direct stories necessarily. It's not necessarily about the stories we're looking to dive into. We're looking to answer questions, look at comments, and you can feel free to join and discuss with me over there on TikTok. Feel free to join in. We got to talk to Pope Gregory about this. Talk to Pope Gregory about what? So feel free. What's on your mind? What has been on your mind this week? As per usual, this is brought to you by Mindful Education, the educational institution that we run. And if you are looking for in-person homeschool style full-time or part-time classes, we offer those. We offer tutoring. We offer tutoring in most CXC and CAPE subjects. If you need that little extra attention, be sure to hit us up, Mindful Education, over there on Instagram, or message me wherever you see me. I will respond and send you to the right place. We offer online classes too, online also, online and in person, because the day is going too quick, as you say. Hey, Georgian calendar. Well, true. It's all his fault. Maybe. Or maybe when they hit the Hadron Collider, they messed with the space-time continuum, and now time is sped up on us. 2020 doesn't feel like 5 years ago. The start of COVID, 5 years ago? Wow. That's quite some time. Where has the time gone? We need that Ethiopian calendar. Yeah, it really has a kind of speed up feeling. People getting older fast. I am a young man. The years are passing me by, but I remain young. I refuse to believe I am aging at the speed the years are passing. The day is shorter. Good night, Holly Joseph. Hi. What's up, Holly? Trump could answer that time. Say good night, folks. What's up, peeps? What's the topic, Hallie Joseph asked? Well, it's a Thursday. We're talking, we're discussing whatever topics are brought up inside here. What's been on your mind for the week? What questions you have, what comments you have to make. Do you want to get in a discussion? Do you want to argue with me about something? Feel free. What's that? You good? Tell the people laters. Peace. Peace. Run along. Yeah. Well, you see, Trumpy, let me argue now. Well, you know, I always have a good argument. You see, Trumpy boy has made it official. Their Department of Education exists no more. No more with this Department of Education business. They're sending their educational setup back down to the states. And many people are very angry about that.
Yeah, so that's what What's good, y'all? What's good, y'all? What's goody? What's good out
What you want to tell the people?
You know, I saw that tell them.
You want to tell them how old are you? And how old are you? You got to tell the people that? You good now? Yeah. And it's interesting enough. It's interesting enough that that's around the same time as some issues in our education system. The Presbyterian Board lost their legal claim. I don't know, Ronnie. They lost their legal claim with the Ministry of Education, where they sued the Ministry of Education. Basically, they wanted the right to select their teachers, as the board has generally been allowed to. So the ministry wanted it to be that basically the ministry selects the teachers and the ministry has the say, and that's what went to court. Basically, the courts ruled that yes, although custom may have been that the ministry allowed the boards to have the say, the law stipulates basically that the ministry has the say. So the courts ruled in the ministry's favor. I hate that, to be very honest, because I think, similar to what is going on in the US, I think the more education moves away from that big, massive one government trying to run it thing, the more effective it would be. And we could look at that here, government schools versus board schools. Which school generally tends to run better? And many government schools aren't short on resources. It's not that they have a resource problem. So I would prefer the boards to have more say. Stewie though, new PM Stewie, okay Elan, new PM Stewie had a meeting with the boards though, so maybe he is looking to rectify that. That would be good. That would be good.
Stewie or Stewie? Which one is it?
Stewie faster.
Gotta keep up with me. Or Stewie. No, but you know, I think I was online today. I know I saw everybody talking about segregation. You know, I've seen people talking about racial segregation because Trump did what he did. And, you know, and what's interesting is that I'm like, okay, well, segregation didn't actually stop, you know. Maybe racial segregation has stopped, correct is right. But like segregation on a class level is a thing that has always been there. Like people who live in wealthier communities, like send their children to better schools. That's a form of segregation.
All the time.
That normally happens. So why would people be mad that, you know, people get to segregate their schools at a local level now? Like if we're talking about Trinidad and Tobago as well, it's like, okay, then the denominational schools are segregated and they produce better results. So what are we going to do? Are we going to take away the rights of the denominational schools to give it to the state? The state hasn't been producing anything, so what are we doing? What are we saying?
And
What
see,
are we saying?
Alexander, I
What are
really
we
want to
saying?
know what academic qualifications are needed to become a candidate for elections. I don't think anything really, but the truth is, the nature of our system is you don't want it to be anything. You want it to be that anybody could lead us. The idea that someone has to be educated to a certain level in order to have the privilege to lead the country is an antithetical to democracy. Democracy means we, whoever the majority are, get to select who we believe would most constitute our vision for leadership. It's not about who is the most educated or who is the most learned and etc. 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 That's not what the process is supposed to be. The process is supposed to be that the person who can command the leadership. That's the idea. So that's why really and truly there being no qualifications isn't a bad thing in and of itself, really and truly. But as you said, Trini Hotep, the segregation is always there. You can't avoid segregation. If only a limited number of people could fit in one school at a time, then the people that go to that school would want to be birds of a feather. That's just the nature of it. And those who are in positions of more power would put themselves in place to segregate themselves more. And okay, in some places that segregation may be along racial lines because of whatever history there may be, but some places that may be along color lines, as in complexion, as in they're all technically the same race, but according to the complexion, some places it may be according to class, according to family name, according to heritage, all kinds of different reasons, but we always find a reason to segregate ourselves to in private. Well, you know I'm not against that, Ronnie. Mindful education out there, anyone, feel free to hit us up.
I was literally about to say, listen, we could terminate the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education, literally. Afuera, let me just do a melee, because what's interesting, I saw a video about the fact that Argentina literally spin around the whole economy in the span of the time that Milei been president. So, and he's literally acts like half of the public sector. So, is the Ministry of Education being effective and the Department of Education in America being effective in education?
No.
Right? The people can't state that somehow without the Department of Education, now education is going to be tumbling down a hill when it's literally tumbling down a hill. Like, what are we saying?
But how can you truly repay people if you can't string two coherent sentences together? Well, you see, Alexander, this is where the democracy thing comes in. The way someone gets into a position of leadership is people choose them. So if someone cannot string two coherent sentences together, then why would people choose them? So it's not really on the person who can't string the sentences together. You have to ask the people, what do you all see in this person who cannot speak? And maybe the person who cannot speak has a silent courage and a shining immovable integrity that people see even beyond the words and all of that and all. Who knows? Maybe. But it's up to the people, really and truly. United States and Trinidad isn't the same. Fact, and Department of Education in the US isn't the same as Ministry of Education here. And if you close down the Ministry of Education here, you would have to put something to manage the educational boards across the districts, because as it stands, the districts don't really have independent management of their education. The difference is in the states. Each state is, the design of their system is, each state is nearly like its own country. So you send that back to there and allow each state to develop their own style. Here's the thing for me. I don't mind that if they pull back out of it a bit more and leave more of it to the denominational schools. I don't mind that. And okay, if there are people who are irreligious and they have a problem with religious education, you have one or two government schools. I can assure you there won't be a massive number of irreligious people not wanting a religious education in Trinidad and Tobago. But nonetheless, you have a couple government schools for them and leave the majority for the boards to run. In my view, I would prefer that, because the boards seem much better at it than the government systems.
Listen, I just say, we could literally take the diminished education, wrap that up in a nice little boat, toss it in the ocean, maybe the Columbus Channel, and let the denominational school run their school, let private education do their thing, and let
As you say, Columbus Channel. I'm surprised nobody ain't tried to rename that yet.
we need to get rid of the vestiges of colonialism. I'm saying
Someday somebody will. Columbus Channel. The Columbus Channel, they will rename that just now. Just now.
The question.
Oh, Abdul.
What would happen to all the government schools in that situation?
I think you give over the management of the government schools to the boards as they can. And I remember during COVID, when they were recognizing the vast disparity even after reopening and the educational attainments they were getting, some of the boards said they're willing to run the government school for them if they want them to.
But listen to this, Nathan. So, Tranquility Secondary is a denominational school.
Yeah.
It is run by Methodist board, right? Plenty people don't know this. I attended that school, and that had to be the most broken denominational board on the face of the earth, right?
this man have it out for the religious boards, man. This is crazy.
Why do you have it out? I attended the school.
If you attended Tranquil in the 2000s, whoo,
the school didn't finish up to now.
Heat.
It didn't finish. The school never have. Listen, that the only secondary school I think there's nothing for the students. Nothing.
One school that won the education of like a whole bunch of that are still up to par with the curriculum of education.
But the truth is, many denominational schools are struggling and broken. And the truth is, some of those broke schools where you're imagining labs, just ask some brethren. We imagine labs out there. In some of those schools where you're imagining labs, because you don't have the equipment, those schools still getting president medals, still getting scholarships, because it's about the board running. The thing is, even with what you're saying there, here's what's going to happen if you have boards running the majority of the schools and things like that happen. The way you get funding in a system like that is based on student attendance. Student attendance in a system like that would be according to parental choice, really and truly. And which parent, if the system is open where the boards are running schools and you could look and see which schools are better performing, which parent is going to want to go to that school? So that board is going to lose money, and eventually they may lose the school because they can't run it. And I think that's a good thing. It's like you put the school on a kind of free market system where the better you perform, the more students want to come. The more students want to come, the more finances you get, the more you could perform. And vice versa likewise. The idea in a state system, in a government-run system, they want to look at the worst performing and decide, you know what? Because in our Marxist foolish minds, we think we must try to always give to those who are in the worst positions. While sometimes it's not that they just need more like that. It's a cultural issue most of the times. So you just dump more money into the underperforming ones, and we lose money into a black hole, while the ones that are well performing suffer, but they still continue to perform better. Torres says, well, Junior Sec would shut down, and who's going to cry over that if it happens?
But it's the same argument in America. Like, it's the same argument in America. No, they will just rename it like East West and those other things. But it's the same kind of predicament. But the thing is, it's the same type of issue in America, like in terms of particular schools, and they have increased their funding, but they still perform under the state or national level. So it's not a funding issue. It's definitely a cultural issue or a parenting issue, right? We want to talk about fund the impoverished people. Okay, you could fund them all you want, but what is that going to change for the mindset of the people that you report that are impoverished?
And here's the thing. This system is like the worst of all worlds, as it were, because you're there as a parent. If you're a parent already in a kind of struggling situation, you're a single mother, your first child, he barely scraped through and he in the regiment now and he kind of going good. The second son, you're struggling to hold on, but he all right. The neighborhood, you ain't a little shaky and it have pressures. And where you think they go in and put your child? Of course, they throw him in the school where all the trouble going on. And now the culture he's surrounded by envelops him. While if you had choice as a mother, you aren't sending your child there. That's what the choice is. Someone asked, how would that pain happen? Well, the idea of how that would be is, at least in how some people iterate that, one option of how you could do something like that is, as it were, a voucher system. So every student in Trinidad and Tobago already costs X amount for the government. The Ministry of Education takes a big chunk of our budget. So you take that Ministry of Education budget, divide it into all of the children and see what that cost will be per child, and you issue a voucher to each parent for that amount. That amount they carry to whichever school they choose, whichever school will accept their child, and they pay with the voucher. So it's still the government paying, but it's still private institutions. Gate works kind of like that, just by the way. Yeah.
In a society like Trinidad, don't have potential for plenty nepotism and family and thing, and that kind of tricky in this. We kind of extra corrupted.
I agree, but here's the thing, Abdul. I don't think that we solve those issues by faking over it. That's why, for example, the thing that I've been reading about for the last month or so, that's a big reason why Africa is having the problems. The Europeans tried to come and Europeanize Africa, while Africa still had tribal and clan issues they had to deal with. So if it is that people are actually more clannish than we want to pretend they are, then allow them to be, and we'll work out those issues as they crop up. The thing is, once every child is able to access education, what does it bother me if all Abdul Hakam and his Muslim brothers go to an elite Muslim school? Why should that bother me if I have the ability to go to school also? I don't want the Muslim education, let them get it.
It's so good. But we don't even have that system right. We don't even have that system right now. And trying to get a child in a primary school in Trinidad and Tobago is like you have to know somebody. You have to know somebody, especially for certain.
Abdul, I'm glad you said that, because you're actually proving my point. What that proves is, just as Hotep said earlier, the segregation already exists. We just mama guying we self. If you want to get your child in Montrose, and Montrose is a government school, but because it got a name over the years, oh, you better know somebody who will be able to pull some string. If you want to get your child in Sevilla or wherever is the prestige, and even with government schools, there's still prestige and name, and this one known for that and that one known for that. And even though education is free, they still figure out a way to, well, we actually need new computers for the laboratory, Daddy, we are looking to expand our computer laboratory, Daddy, and we currently need 2 computers. So if you could see what assistance you could render us, we will see what assistance we could render you, The system already exists. Anybody with children or know what goes on around primary school, the system already exists. The system already exists where if a big boy child pass for a junior sec or east-west, however they want to call it now, they're going to be transferred out within the first week. They even buying a uniform. The system already exists. So why don't we just literally make it clear and open, allow people to choose? Because as it is now, the only people mama guying themselves to believe it's all equal are the people at the bottom. So allow the people at the bottom to see, no, this is not equal, Tanti. Tanti, seek your best interest, because they're not seeking your son's best interest when they put him in 5 Rivers. They're not seeking his best interest. So you watching your son fail, you know he failing, you know the crowd he rolling with in that school corrupting him and go and lead him somewhere bad. But what you gonna do? You have to send him to school.
Which is good night. I'd love to speak tonight. Yes, which is also another problem with education system. Not everybody needs to go to school. Well, when I say that, like everybody needs to go all the way up to C-Sec and write math, English, chemistry, all this and that. And people not interested in them kind of thing either. So if we could find a way and don't stigmatize people who don't want to go down.
You need technical schools now.
We have technical schools.
Well, I mean,
we have, but people don't want to send the children because again, stigma. They want the children to
it's
go.
for what age group? It's for what age group? Let me take Serval for instance. In Serval, you cannot do a trade before 16 years old.
That is correct.
So
That's
then,
rubbish, I find, personally.
Yeah, that is
It
true.
shouldn't be that.
That is nonsense. Look, for instance, in Tobago here, to have a student, which is crazy, I didn't even know this, a 13-year-old standard 3 child, and I didn't even know you could be in primary school in your teens.
It's in remedial classes in Tobago. That's kind of crazy wild.
It's not remedial classes, he just in standard 3.
You see, this is, and Tanticams have to get some licks for this, eh? This is Tanticams and every child gets a place. The idea is kind of, you know, oh gosh, how you gonna leave the child back? If the child not ready to move on to the next system, where they go in? And here's how it works. If you could not pass the school leaving exam, then we don't send you past that school. And it's understood to whoever is in charge of the child, they don't have the capability for that next level. So either you work somewhere around that, or maybe they apprentice into a job. And here's the thing. I think it's a issue where I read sometimes someone who is a homeschool pioneer, and they were saying that they don't even like the idea of home school because the word school sends the wrong impression in some people's minds. We don't even need trade schools. The best place you learn trades aren't in school. Trades are taught through apprenticeship.
yeah, but it's let me don't go down that road. That's not the
Let me don't go down that road. Let me don't go down that road.
Yeah, why listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need the schools. Because listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
The apprenticeship on a job here. I'm sorry to say it, right? But repopulation really not mature enough and got the mentality for that. It is going to turn in.
So when would we become mature?
It is going to turn in. No matter if you like it or not, it is going to turn into a labor issue. And I've seen it with the MUS program. I have seen it with the MUS program.
What do you mean a labor issue?
Where they have been bringing these so-called alleged trainees on the site with the MUS program, and they just had them doing labor work. They teaching them nothing. I've seen it for myself.
Here's the thing. I like that. I like it. I like it. Because plenty of them, what needs to break first is the ability to do hard work. So labor for 5 years, that is part of your apprenticeship program. Here's why I don't think it will fail. Because that's what Trinidad came from. How you mean we wouldn't be able to do this? And this is how every single tradesman who is over 40, that's how they learned.
If you have a 6 months program and you marketed, the government finance and market a 6 months or 8 months program as a trade learning program. And when you break the so-called trainees who take the time and sign up for this program on the job site, who's supposed to be doing masonry, they're mixing mortar and concrete, they learning to pop no block and plaster no wall later. We tell them about.
Here's the reality. Because you're actually showing something that is opposite to what I'm talking about. That's kind of the point I'm making. We don't need trade schools. That's what they tried to do there, a trade school. And you know why that didn't work? Because when they go on a job site, no experienced workman, nobody who sit down in the 5 months in a school and they tell them about the angle of the tilt of the mortar and treat on the wall. I don't want here on my wall, but you wanna bet the 16-year-old who was working with Uncle Harry for the last 4 years, and he already have the skill. When he come on the site and throw one, they say, hey, you man, come with my team now. Come now, boy. No, we go pay you. Come now, man. That's what happens. That is apprenticeship versus school. You can't learn them things in school. And when you try to, that's what makes it fail. Even in the oil industry, it's a bit contracted now. But when the oil industry was even in the big expanse in Trinidad, one of the most regular tropes is they get a batch of educated people from UE and they have to put them under some old man who never really learned how to read and write too good. But he in the oil industry since he was 10, and he is the one in the machine shop have to teach them everything to do.
Basically. So the thing is this. So the thing for me is this is, listen, do the apprenticeship. I would like that. Listen, carry all them 16-year-old boys on a shutdown, get them a 6-month contract, and then beat all that work. Simple mathematics in my head, you know? Because
It's so simple until you have ever actually been on a site and see how that is take place.
Listen, but the thing about it, Abdul,
listen,
the thing about it, Abdul,
theorize that until you see it take place.
The thing is, what Abdul, nobody going to learn without doing something. We're not going to actually get nowhere and mature as a country if we don't try things out here. We just sit down and just talk.
I am a trained seaman. Right? No, you need. This is what the thing does go, whether we accept it or not. If I was just one of them seamen from the 1800s, I just know the sea, right? Or even my father, who's a captain right now, let me put that for instance. If he never went with all the experience and get his documents, he could have never go in the next country and be a captain. He would have to be a captain in Trinidad and Tobago for
Did he learn the trade before or after? Did he get the qualifications before or after he started learning the trade?
He was already on the water, but I get my qualification before I went on the water, Nathan.
And that's literally the point I'm making. The point I'm making is I think it's more effective in your father's part than yours. Not saying that your father's part can't be streamlined, where you have a clear apprenticeship program, you have 3 years on-site experience, which gives you XYZ credits, and all you have to do is come and write, and once you show the thing, you get the certificate. Of course, I am not saying that certification should be thrown out. I mean, I'm a teacher. If you throw out all certification and education, I without a job. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that the nature of the process can be tweaked, and it seems like we turned it upside down a bit. It's like part of the problem when we were talking about GATE earlier this week. Part of the problem with making university education like just another step from secondary school is that the idea of this was supposed to be, to some extent, sometimes some people work in a field, they reach a certain level and they see, okay, I need to go and learn XYZ to attain another piece. Not that I want to start off with filling my whole head with as much knowledge on this thing as possible when I don't even know one iota of where this applicable knowledge goes. Especially when it comes to trades, because that's the nature of trades. I was speaking about trades, bear in mind. Not all areas would be like that. Not all.
Well, no. But I mean, back in the days, that was how all areas were. Even if you wanted to be a doctor, all you was just doing was learning on the job, basically. And then you was learning under somebody else. I'm not talking about like anywhere in the last few years, but it was back in the olden days, that's how you learn from somebody else to do it.
Ready?
And you just kind of develop on whatever that person teach you, and you pass it down. That's all education is.
You set up your fears?
Sorry, what is that?
You set up the fears.
come now, this man doing him
No, but I
right
just
now.
saying,
This is
even
crazy.
like in that regard to the highest level of education, the most serious jobs, if we were to say, like, training is much more important than your certificate, right?
You need some on the field experience, yes. I agree.
You need that more than you need the certificate.
I agree. But
You need that more.
we're trying to make a profitable society where people can actually go out and make a living, whether it be in Trinidad and Tobago or outside, right? So the perspective I'm looking at it from is you being able to make a living and get employment, whether it be in Trinidad and Tobago or outside. And from the time I speak on outside, and if I focus on the CARICOM in particular, or North America, they want to see the documents.
You know what's the interesting thing, Abdul? In many of those foreign countries, Germany is a prime example. No document you get from here works over there. Everything, you have to go and do it over by them. You know what helps? You know what helps? You know what helps? When you have to do everything over, if you actually know it. And in most places, I know quite a few, I know some people that have been in positions like that. They have the skill, they go over, someone sees they have the skill, and they put them into where to get the qualification and certification. Because people who are in private sector businesses, people who are in the free market, they aren't looking for certification. They are looking to make money. So if you are the most effective, they will see about the certification for you. It's the same thing like those Brazilian footballers. Don't worry, we will do everything else. Just bring your skillful left foot and come. Same thing. The skill is the most important part, and especially when we're moving, people aren't understanding the way the world is changing. And some people are setting up businesses and ideas and sending their children into horse carriage business while the internal combustion engine is out there and moving. The internet is here. It's a different world. If I could show myself able to do something, if I could build up a portfolio that is easily accessible for anybody to view, anybody asks what is Mr. Beast's qualification to do anything?
No, but you see, this is the thing. This is why I feel Trinidad and Tobago and the United States of America have a similar issue. They are seeing a very similar issue in terms of a school to work pipeline that's not working out for them. There's a bunch of people with degrees in America that doesn't translate to them earning a dime, earning nothing, and then businesses want them in the private sector to have experience on top of that. So what's the point of you sit down in a classroom 8 years, come out, not use your degree for anything because the degree is worthless, it's a communication degree, nobody cares, right? It's a basket weaving degree from Africa, nobody cares, right? But the business wants you to have some experience behind you. So the point of apprenticeship, the point of journeymanship, if you want to call it that, is a point that needs to be had within this particular thing, because we're losing recipes at the present moment, right? We have literal people in Trinidad and Tobago who coming out of school and saying they can't get a job nowhere. So they waste their parents' money or waste the government money to sit down home. That making sense?
Bro, I know people in the agricultural faculty in UE that don't know what a dashing leaf is. You understanding the kind of the nature of what that a dashing leaf, I don't know, some people in the chat probably don't even know, but a dashing leaf is like the most recognizable trini something you see in just general gardening. How you doing an agricultural degree
But I can tell you the history.
and don't
What that in particular saying is that you will, whether it be a degree or whatever they gain out for that, is failure. Whoever is the people responsible for that failing the student, because how you could do agricultural. No. You could do an agricultural program within a particular region, right? And not have no practical within the program.
Because the curriculum is literally set up not for that. Okay, let me be real about this, right? you cannot tell me outside of the degrees that actually, the degrees or a certification that actually needs you to have some sort of internship. The rest of the degrees people do, they do not care about this practical stuff you're talking about. I sure those agriculture degrees, and Nathan could back me up and say I'm wrong if I'm not. I sure the agriculture degrees have nothing to do with actual farming. It's all about the history of the leaf or whatever, administration work or whatever. Like nobody doing an agricultural degree is going to farm with those guys out there.
So those jobs are just for people who want to be technicians and them kind of positions. There is not.
It's hard to be.
But Abdul, let me tell you how things like that happen. Things like that happen because when you're designing a theoretical course, it's difficult. There is an unending amount of information out there that could be used. You have to select what is the important information that needs to be taught. It is difficult to cut out of the whole infinite universe of information the precisely useful amount of information needed for that student. That's it's quite a task. It's not impossible, but it's quite a task. But then, when you do that, and then you have that compounded on 50 years of changing and tweaking, and each new professor adds another thing, and then climate change comes in, so they have to drop a piece of the syllabus to include the climate change, and they have to cut this to include the UN, the UN Sustainable Developmental Goals, and they have to make sure and teach all of that. And the bureaucracy expands to meet the need of the bureaucracy. So here's the way you cut bureaucracy. If they are in a garden as an apprentice, you know what you need to know. Okay, we've seen 5 snakes in the garden so far. We need to know and identify those snakes. I am seeing that leaf everywhere. I need to know what kind of leaf that is. The education and knowledge that is required becomes apparent when you are an apprentice. It becomes quite clear because you see what you're lacking.
Imagine knowing the history of the leaf, but not the leaf. Please.
So, right, just a quick point here. I think all degrees need to ask for experience. Every single degree must have a minimum of, like, let's say, 3 years experience in the field before you get it. Well, not all, but
before you even start doing the degree, I mean?
Some of them will be like, before you start the degree, I need to see that you went and you did something in this field to show me that you're actually interested.
Ronnie, that's how it was, you know. When people had to pay for their degrees, you had to go and work first.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and this is why I appreciated Mr. Pandey's approach to degrees, which was
dollar for dollar.
You earn your dollar, and I will give you $1, which meant that you had to work before you could get your degree. Too much people went to school straight after Form 5 and Form 6, and they wasted a lot of time, and then they walk away with degrees, and they're like, I didn't know this is why I was signing up for. Like, you know how much people, including myself, but how much of my friends did degrees, and I was like, this is not what I thought I was signing up for, you know. Imagine my friend doing this, and then turn around and say, nah, but I don't have the belly to see them kind of thing. I'm like, what? Graduate and does not work as a nurse. So you can imagine how much money we waste as a country sending people for degrees, and then apart from that, we also flood the market with people with jobs that are completely saturated and cause our own brain drain. Because if I can't get a job, why would I stay? I would go somewhere that would hire me, which is unfair to the people who live in those places that have student loans, because you have none. You there working and all your money is yours. So it's kind of unfair. Like, we literally be causing chaos in this world, and then we causing chaos for ourselves as a nation.
Agreed. I agree with pretty much everything you said there. And don't get me wrong, I went through gate at the height of gate when the gate was sprawling open, and you could have dance and whine and spin and backflip through the gate, anything you want. But
well, listen.
Yeah.
Listen to what I'm saying. Please remember, all majority of those stuff was put in place from a generation in a time where nobody viewed, no one viewed certain jobs as an upstanding and worthy form of income and employment, right? Please remember that. When all these degrees, when they were doing up Costat and UE and Gate, nobody thought, I don't want my child to go and be no farmer. I don't want my child to go and plant no garden and raise no cattle. You mad? You could have gone and tell your mother, your father, you want to go and plant garden? Never, not in them days. Never.
Yes,
you could have gone and tell your father, you want to be a carpenter or welder, you mad?
I could have. There was some differences, but I agree with the point you're making by and large. But here's the thing. I think the visionary that we had back then, visionary Manning, give him his credit, that's what he was. He was a visionary kind of fellow. Too bad the visions ended up a bit blurry. But the idea was this Singapore model, where we were supposed to be a highly educated, service-oriented country. The thing is though, just opening the gate and creating the opportunity for it is not what's going to make it a reality. Because that Singapore model came with a lot of surrounding infrastructure, as it were. Extremely strict on crime. So that when people come for whatever service they come for, they have no worry of crime. Directing the population into where and what you want them to do. That's not what went on. It was just you all go do and enjoy yourselves. And then they actually were successful in their housing programs so that you could build a housing market, government build in Singapore's case, for that educated class. By and large, we're failing at that. The HDC housing, and that's an important factor that some people don't take into consideration. That HDC housing business, if that was successful in what they purported to want to do, if all the children, all the adults who graduated from UE were able to access a $250,000 finished home from HDC, you have that service class. So some of the prop-up infrastructure that was supposed to work together with it didn't. So the whole thing is just a splat.
I mean, carrot. Trying to house people is crazy. As we discussed later, let's give the people the land. At this point, I'm really with the Malay crowd, bro.
Of where everything.
No, 3/4 of this thing could really go. The way to that means national security to the general. What else we did again? Standing army, foreign affairs, analyze it. Everything else, privatize it. Because what we doing? Because how housing ministry supposed to work in tandem with education, but up to now we losing recipes. It's crazy.
Fact. And that's the thing in a hotel. And that's what catches people over and over. It sounds good. Like if for you to say privatize everything, you telling everybody they had a struggle. So what's going to happen if somebody can't pay? And what's going to happen? And the bleeding heart people say, well, no, that's why we pay for. And you're not seeing the unintended consequences that, yes, it sounds like the kind of thing to do, but in terms of the consequences, they aren't working out in the way you'd like them to work.
Some things should be privatized, yes, but some things no. Because, in North America, the United States, nearly everything is privatized, and you can stay from outside and see the certain services that are privatized that cause extreme problems in their society. You can stay from the outside and
like which?
Health in particular.
But here's the thing. That's not true. That's not true. I am sure the average American has access to probably magnitude times better health care than us. Because it's the problem is it's tied to your job, and the reason it became tied to your job is government demanded that it became tied to your job, and that's what sent up the insurance costs like that. But it's insurance.
At the end of the day, the insurance costs are still extremely high, and a lot of average Americans, and I'm speaking about working people, cannot afford it.
Cannot afford what? Are Americans dying of diseases that are easily treatable in Trinidad?
Well,
Is that a case?
Because let me get a good reference, because we in the so-called developing world seem to believe what we just see on house and residence. It don't work like that. My uncle get diagnosed in the hospital up there.
You're insulting the intelligence of developing world people. Come
Just now, just now, because the TV and the internet have a delusion about how shit does work out there. In the same healthcare system, and he has a very good job. He has his insurance, and he get diagnosed wrong for cancer, and get treated for cancer. For them to come and tell him, well, oops, you really don't have cancer, you're not happy.
Bro, they're sewing instruments inside of people's belly in Trinidad. Malpractice happens. That's malpractice.
If you know what the bill prices were, mind you, we still have to pay those bills.
I am not saying it's perfect, but almost everyone would prefer that healthcare. Even our leaders very often leave and go there for healthcare. And then here's another factor that we're going to see come crashing down over the next decade or so, I think. Many of those other large countries, England, Canada, and some of those European countries that have free healthcare and depended on the US subsidizing them since the post-war Monroe Doctrine kind of geopolitics. And this new guy is looking to close that up. Many of them can support their social welfare safety nets based on getting preferential trading with the one free market juggernaut. And then they will look at the US and say, ha ha ha, look at you all having to pay for your health care. Ha ha ha. Not understanding that you able to sell into their market and you could protect from them selling into your market because the power of the free market economy, your socialist government are afraid of it. So they reaping the benefits and trying to squeeze out the advantages that they have. So if they decide to change how they do business, a lot of that comes crumbling down.
I don't have an issue with all of this. I just want people to know it's not as perfect as we might
It's not
see.
perfect. I don't think it's perfect at all. But here's the thing to Abdul. It's impossible to get healthcare perfect because we are all going to die and there are various levels of cost for healthcare. There are certain things, certain therapies in healthcare that cost an enormous amount to procure because they require rare materials needed to access from different parts of the world, because they require the time of somebody who is very busy. So you have to pay them an inordinate amount to select that time just because of real world factors. The medical help is expensive. Right now in Trinidad, they're saying like CDAP is bleeding us dry. Because it's a reality. If I am 90 and I have 50 different ailments and I require 50 different pills every day, each pill costing $50,000, is it on the state to keep that running for me? And at some point in time, that line always bridges. And where that line bridges is where heartbreak happens. The thing with the free market, the line bridges where you could afford. That is it. The thing with public is the line bridges where the government says. And if you look at Canada and MAID, medical assistance in dying, you're going to get a kind of different idea of how much you want the government to bridge that.
No, you see, all I'm trying to say is this, right? Is if we think that our tax dollars are supposed to pay, and it's gonna sound real horrible, if we think our tax dollars are supposed to go to pay for some 90-year-old woman who have like 60 illnesses, which she could have prevented like 49 of those things, I'm sorry, she don't deserve my money, bro. I ain't gonna hold up on that one. My money's for my family, bro. I'm a house, I'm a land, I'm a car, bro. I ain't gonna hold you up on that. Let's be real honest with you. Ain't no way you rush into the hospital on my good tax dollars. For things
A capitalist indeed, man.
The gout in your foot. You could have stopped that. Why you doing that? Why you burning in the state?
So then, all right. So then, So why everybody was vexed with DL Singh when DL Singh say, and same thing you talk about, right? The lifestyle diseases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why everybody was vexed when DL Singh say, well, here what going on? All them soft drink content was selling, I gonna pay extra tax on all them soft drink on them.
Because I don't want that, Abdul. And you see, that's the problem with that. That's exactly the problem I highlighted. In the free market, I get to determine my line. So because I'm healthy and I decide to live healthily, I could decide when I want, I could go and buy a Coke and I buy it for the price it is. So because you are a glutton and milking the free system, now the government has to control how I eat? No, the government is not my daddy. You don't get to tell me by trying to squeeze money out of me where and what to eat. No, leave the system free and you live by your consequences. So here's why that's strange to me. So people would rather the government charge you money for drinking bad things instead of they charge you money for your health care that is your fault.
You know why? And I know the exact reason why he said that and suggested that.
Why?
It was because of the bill, the recurring bill for the lifestyle diseases that the government has to maintain.
And if it was pay, all that would not have been a problem.
No, but you see, my problem is that the government want to milk the population when the
That was not about milking Chini Hotep. That was not about milking because even a previous New York governor suggested that.
You like Abdul, let me go at that. You remember which New York governor that was?
I think it was the one who was there for COVID.
No, was the one before. Was the billionaire Bloomberg. Bloomberg suggested that. And you know who he suggested they tax the most? The poor. Because the poor don't know what to buy, so it's best we keep that from them, was kind of his theory. And that's the effect most of this is going to have, really and truly, because a tax is only a punishment for the poor. So you're going to end up in a system where the state dictates what all the poor do and herd them into the public health care while we see a blossoming parallel private healthcare industry opening in Trinidad. Like, ask yourself, if public healthcare is so wonderful, how could even one private institute survive? And we have one on every corner, they're opening like faster than Chinese groceries now.
Because we have a large population that could afford it.
Is it just about afford it? So I could get the same quality inside the public healthcare, and I'm going to just pay her 50,000 off of ice.
They are 10 to in the same time frame. That is the difference.
So it's not the same quality because time frame when it comes to health, you know, time frame is kind of what it's all about. Because we're all going to die. We are all going to die. So healthcare is all about time frame. If you wait 60 years to treat me, of course you don't have to treat me anymore. Or we could do like Canada and speed up the 60 years and say, all right, we can't give you chemotherapy within the 2 years. So what we could give you right now is death. That's where this all goes, you know.
A break finger in one of them institutions could cost you $3,000 to $5,000, you know.
If you have insurance. And almost all of those institutions people know function like if you tell them you have no insurance, the price changes. Also, emergency healthcare. This is something that people try to lie about and make it seem like it's not the case. Emergency healthcare everywhere there is free. They'll patch you up and send you on your way. Bear in mind, the emergency healthcare may be the quality of our full healthcare here.
But not in Trinidad. In the US, yes, they have to attend to if it's like emergency. Not in Trinidad. I personally know men leaking.
You're proving my point.
Listen, Nathan. I know men leaking. Pull up in the one on opposite Cocorit. And they let them know, hey, you have no cash or insurance, let the bumps on them.
Because we have the public healthcare system. Why you come in here, go your way. And if we had a full private system, then the rules will stipulate, well, that covers that. And even right now, I think in California, they're trying to close that down, but California has free healthcare for all undocumented people. So look at that. It's not, yes, it's not a bed of roses. It's not perfect. It's not like you're going to get everything done and get it done perfectly and just how you want. No, that's not the case.
But do you trust Trinidad businessmen?
No.
Let's say they privatize WASA, they privatize electricity, which is partially private up to nowhere. It is partially private.
Mm-hmm.
The downstream is what the government
Yeah.
Right? Do you trust our unscrupulous and greedy businessmen? And this is exactly how I look at it. I vex these businessmen, I vex they making money, but the unscrupulous and the greedy to put fair prices on them bills.
Why you vex with profit? Well, you vex with businessmen making profit.
Vex with profit. I think about you vex with profit. Say what you want, and I don't vex men out of business and men making money, but we have greedy and scrupulous businessmen trying to make money.
I want to depend on it. Here's my answer to that. And Ronnie, no, it's not a one-on-one. But I want to be able to depend on the businessmen being greedy and wanting the best for themselves. You see, if Ansa McCall is greedy and wants the best, the investors in Massey are greedy and want the best. Them, what is the Southern Seals family, the Muslim guys, and they want the best for them. The Aboods wants the best. They all are looking to make the best dollar. The way you make the best dollar in a free market system is get the product that most people want. So I am depending on them being greedy. And you see, that's the thing that makes free market a lot more reliable to me than anything socialized. Because, okay, you're asking if I trust the businessmen. No, I don't. And I can depend on them being greedy to work in competition. But then I will ask, do you trust politicians? Because that's the alternative. I'm saying I rather a system that depends on the selfish nature of humans to work. While the other thing is, you're saying, I am afraid that humans are too selfish. So what I want to do is give humans more control of the system. That does not make sense. Because, okay, maybe the 1% names in the private sector sense, but now it's politicians. And would I trust a businessman looking to make the most? Who would you trust more? A businessman looking to make the most money? Or a politician who tells you they're doing it because they love you and they care about you? Who would you trust?
Nobody really believes politicians to begin with, so well, Bob.
Exactly. Yeah. So wouldn't it make more sense to depend on a businessman to seek his best interests? Here's the proof, Abdul. Here's the proof. TCL and Rock Hard. I'm in the building sector. You could remember building in them days? It's like every week cement prices dropping. That's what competition did. You all could remember, anybody old enough to remember exactly when Digicel came into the market. The race to the bottom that went on with phones and phone prices.
Yeah, the prices dropped drastically.
We could depend on private companies wanting to be the best.
You're telling us we won't have competition initially. We won't.
In what sense? For what? In which area we wouldn't have competition?
Let me go electricity.
Well, for me, I am not full libertarian, to be very honest. I am not sure, because we have size constraints. That's just a reality. So I am not sure how effective utilities may be privatized. But I think reaching to utilities privatized is way far down the road from where we are right now. There are a whole lot of things in line before utilities. Ronnie, you wanted to say something, Gil?
Look how long since before
I'm sorry. Sorry, Ronnie, I'm sorry. Go on. My bad.
I can't remember. But just to answer that hospital thing, I think we also have to realize that the reason why the American hospital system is so expensive now is because they had uptake of government funding in terms of the government was paying for particular things for people. So people who was like, oh, well, I don't have it or whatever, the government decided to step in and pay for those people. And of course, what would the hospitals and these people do? They'll raise it because the government is sure to pay it. They may pay it. No, they may not pay it right away, but they'll pay it. So
Same thing with the school system.
I will charge for inflation one time. And that is what happens, and that is why they balloon the cost of everything in the American hospitals. I think that we have a good system in terms of healthcare. We have a fair system with the private public. If you have enough money, you go private. If you don't, you go public. Unfortunately, that's how it is. I don't necessarily agree with the social programs that we have in Trinidad and Tobago because, like for instance, the subsidy that they put on the travel between Trinidad and Tobago, for instance, I will say that. It's have people in Trinidad who never see Tobago and people in Tobago who never see Trinidad. But I would come to Trinidad twice a month, and all you're paying for that, everybody just pay for me to come to Trinidad every 2 weeks. I in Trinidad, and that is it really small thing? A ticket subsidized heavily.
That ticket is going to be over $1,000, not subsidized.
Exactly, and it's subsidized for that, and it's like only some people benefit. That some people who had to save a whole half a year before they could come to Tobago. You could see how it's like.
Remember every service.
Benefits. You, Mr. Man, you like to talk over people. I just kidding. Let me finish all my thing and then we go get back to you. Alright? Anyway, so in them kind of regards, you see how the rich really benefit much more from subsidies than the poor. Because, again, gas subsidy. If you driving your big engine vehicle or whatever, big gas tank, I don't know how that is, and you filling up your tank. Now, yes, you're paying more for gas by the pump, but I helping you pay for your gas. I don't have a car, I walk in. What gas are you getting? I'm not getting no benefit. And as far as privatizing things like tea and takanwasa, for me, I find it real normal. It could be done, and the only way it should be done, have a fair rate. When I say a fair rate, have a rate. So the rate is $2 per watt or whatever you use. And everybody pays the $2, obviously residential, and commercial will have a little bit more or whatever. Or they may actually have less because you want people to get commercial buildings because that's the business community and the hire people and whatever. So you may even do less for the commercial. But let me say everybody have the same rate. And then you pay for what you use because you have AC and dryer. Why should you be subsidized when I am using a fan? You understand? So the rich people benefit much more from subsidies than the poor people even think. They don't even know that they're missing out, what they're missing out.
I'm gonna talk over it right at the end here. Sorry, eh?
No, that's it. That's what I have to
But here's the reasoning historically, and see if it makes sense for you. Because it's not that I necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but you have to understand the historical context and why they did it, and why it makes sense to some. One, in the case of taxing people to pay for those subsidies, that's one thing where, okay, the person who is not going to Tobago is paying taxes to subsidize the person traveling up and down between Trinidad and Tobago. But in the case of a resource-rich country, it's not taxes that pay. It's
agreed.
It's the returns from the resources. So, what do you do as a country if as a country you start to make money? All right. Some people may say, well, privatize the whole thing. But here's the reality with privatizing the whole thing in that case. If they privatize the whole thing from the jump in the 60s, Shell, Exxon, BP would have come in, sucked out all and sent all the money outside. We would have been a husk of a country. Nothing. because they would have had the money to come in and do what they needed to do. If you had no rules, it was full free market, they would have brought in their expertise from outside, because they don't care to have to teach no Trini nothing. Forget about all here. We come for all your oil, dig it out, sell it on the international market, and move out. So, does the country have an interest in herding in some of that money from just going with a multinational? Yes.
I'm not saying that is what they should do, and I'm obviously factoring in when they made these rules because resources was high then and it belonged to the country, which is why they wanted to give back to the country. Basically, there was like, oh, well, this oil and gas and everything belongs to the people, so we're doing things to benefit the people, which I understand. But now, which is, they should have started weaning us off of this oil and gas thing, because they kept talking about oil and gas wasn't going to last. They say 2020 was going to be the end of it. Then they say 20 whatever and this and the third. So they knew that it was coming to an end, yet they did nothing to wean the population off. You know, so instead of gradually getting used to paying more for this and paying more for that, you kind of abruptly stop certain things, and it could be seen as a problem. I don't see it as a problem, but it can be seen for some people as a problem because they don't get what they were getting before. But the truth of the matter is, if I was working for $100,000 a month and I start working for $50,000 a month, I need to cut back, only rightfully so. So if the country is not as gaining as much as it was before, then it's only smart for people to realize certain things have to stop.
I agree.
So of course, I'm not talking about back in the day when everything was everything and everything was nice, but I'm talking about now when everything isn't as good. We had to look at how we could cut certain things.
But if we're looking at cutting, I agree with what you're saying. I agree, first up. But if we're looking at cutting, bear in mind, it's not that our resources have gone to zero. The country still makes money from natural resources. And in fairness, all the money the country makes from natural resources belongs to the people of the country. Okay. So you're trying to get a way to get it to them. To me, the best way for that are things like the fuel subsidy and the Trinidad to Tobago route subsidy. Things that people use on the everyday that they will get a benefit from to them. Here's the thing. If you're saying you don't like that, that's spending money biasly to some, which is true. Is that spending money more biasly than paying any public servant a salary?
Oh, well, yes, they could cut the public service as well.
So then for me, that was my problem, for example, with the subsidies. Okay, you were saying the country is losing the money. We don't have as much income as we once did, so we have to cut back on some things. I don't want you to cut back on the things that give money directly to me as a citizen of the country, while you allow things that pay a selected group for doing no great benefit, and you leave that. You understand what I mean? So if we're cutting, where are we cutting from?
Well, I agree. I agree that they could cut the public service, but you all know that's not gonna happen. But what I would say is, note people, they have started making some positions redundant. If you was hoping for a government job, if you was hoping for a child to get a government job, it may not be as bountiful as it was before. But most young people, they don't care to have a government job. They'll walk off, plenty of them too. And that's great, because then the government service is now dying, it's dwindling. So hopefully one day, even if the government doesn't do it, the population might.
And the thing is, if a government runs the economy in a way that makes business and private sector blossom, people will go to the private sector. And especially people who are more ambitious. Why would you stay with a stagnant government salary if there is a possibility to advance and grow faster in the private sector? It's just what would happen. But nonetheless, what tends to happen also is, even if that's going on, what is happening is the ambitious ones in the society then begin paying for the ones who want to just chill. And that's not really healthy either, is it? Abdullah and Hotep like she loud it all up to Dundee, boy.
Now let's check in something there. Trinidadians know that Trinidad's still producing and selling natural gas.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
That never stop selling.
I never said it there.
No. Ask if Trinidad is on the whole, because Trinidad, I think it have a general kind of understanding that it have no more.
Good night, Nemesis.
And that is kind of not true, because the proven reserves of natural gas we have is the current rate is like 14 years, right? This is proven reserves, right? And they still, according to the former PM, they're trying to extend the maritime borders, the access where it have in the international waters currently. So I don't think Trinidad really going to have a permanent long-term shortage of income. We have it right now, but it will be corrected, because at least by 2027, because Shell is going to go on a new field. That decision was already made. So now is the time. They need to figure out what they need to ease back on, what they need to readjust, so when that time reach, you don't end up back in the same situation. That is all it is. I don't believe everything should get privatized, maybe especially water. I don't really think they should mess with the water.
Me too a bit. Me too a bit. Because to privatize the utilities, generally speaking, you need massive companies. Do we have local companies that will be that big? Do we have multiple local companies that would be that big so that they can compete? Or would we then fall into the same monopoly trap? Just this time it would be a foreign company monopolizing our water down here. I mean,
Correct.
There are considerations. Like for me, I am individualist. I am free market looking, but I don't think government has no position to be in. The problems arise the lower trust societies we have. Like if Trinidad, every Trini was really Trini to the bone and really loved Trini and really this is my country, then the amount of things we would have been able to do all together as a country would have been much higher. The chances are people wouldn't have stolen from Petrotrin as much. They wouldn't have stolen from Carney 1975 Limited as much. Yeah, those things may have been more feasible. So it's a balance of the level of trust in society, to me, with how much we could get to do together as a government. But because we're not going to run out of income, it's always going to be an issue where we spend it. And I would like if we could at least see a direction where it seems like a Doge wants to get into Trinidad. A Department of Government Efficiency where they're looking to trim back on some of what we're doing in the government.
Listen, I'm all for that. A Ministry of Government Efficiency put one of them sabgas in control of it and let be. Yeah. We are doing that. For one of them sabgas that nobody trying to be like, let's call like Elon Musk in America. So they go keep talking about it. But you see, we can't get that because we don't have a potential orange madman in Tobago willing enough to hold political office now.
Here's the issue I think with that. I think the big business in Trinidad, a lot of them already benefit from the status quo. So they would not be interested in upsetting the apple cart and making it more free market. Remember when Imbert and them boys come in? One of the first things they did was close up the freedom in the economy. So I am not sure if we have someone who will see that they will benefit from that change as much if you're talking about big business. Some of those big businessmen, they are already maximum benefiting with the status quo being as it is. If you close down the public service, all of the certain families that have a lot of land throughout Port of Spain, and they make a lot of money from public servants in their nice Van Heusen fitted and the pantsuits walking up and down in Port of Spain on a morning, on a lunchtime, and on an afternoon. If that all changes, would that be something they're actually interested in? I'm not sure. So it's not necessarily like I don't think it's necessarily a big businessman in Trinidad may automatically do that way. You might need a small to medium entrepreneur who is very hungry to reach large, and he might be most interested in a fuera and everything out there.
But you see, the problem with that, Nathan, is that a small to medium businessman going to find a real pushback against the establishment now. So even if we have a radical enough leader to say, you know what, we're going to create a new ministry of government transformation. Let me call it that now. They don't like those, you know. I mean, I would put a small businessman. That gang call all types of rockers. You go here, but who have bacchanal here, who probing into him and questions from the so-called free press. And so I think, listen, even though the small to medium business might have the backing of the Prime Minister.
That Spanish music I hear in the background there. That Spanish music I hear in the background there.
Nah. They're running some heavy dancehall now by the villa. So, but yeah, so to me, that small to medium businessman can get mad pushback. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't think them some girls care about government position at this point. I don't think them care about government position. I feel they might quicker get a hardy to do that. I think them some girls don't care about that right now. They don't care about that. Them go stay in the back and finance the parties, and them don't care about that frontline thing.
It doesn't matter. That's what I said. Like in the case of the US, because of their size and influence, if you could get them to run efficiently as a business, then you get benefit by proxy. But in the case of Trinidad, if you are a Trinidadian oligarch, as it were, you are already part of old money Trinidad, big money Trinidad. Forbes don't even know what your net worth is, because nobody knows what your net worth and your family net worth is. And you could use Trinidad as a launching point to launch a global business empire, as many of them are doing, and keep things kind of on the low here, where you're well connected and well protected. Is it in your interest to make the whole thing free and everybody could see and know everything that's going on? You kind of like the back room on the more on the low, you know, covert, subterfuge. You call an assistant and an assistant calls an assistant, and you all meet on a golf course somewhere, and you prefer that running. Yet nobody knows. I was reading into some of that hotep. Nobody knows nearly any of them in Trinidad. We on a different kind of function. We don't function as others do. It's all wonder. Who knows?
Ask majority of Trinidadians if they could pinpoint the owner of any one of them companies. The majority of Trinidadians can't.
Mm-hmm.
They can't.
And something that I noted a while, the owning of Guardian Media isn't a coincidence. Owning a media house, and what you recognize is many super wealthy people almost always get into a bit of media business. And you know what's interesting with that? You know, probably the majority of news media in particular, worldwide, is a kind of bussing business. It isn't like something super profitable.
It's just to push your agenda.
I didn't say that, but it's just curious that super wealthy business people would go into bussing businesses,
One business bussing is small, you know.
Small thing. Because the purpose of that business was never about making money. That's the other businesses. So I don't know in our case if a big businessman would be what we're looking for. What might be most effective in Trinidad may be the populist style leadership. A populist style leader coming in where they're willing to make radical things because the general population says that that's what they want. A bit of populism may go a long way in Trinidad and Tobago, but for that to be very effective, we need a public that is understanding enough to say what they want of a great leader, that kind of thing. They'll need to change law. You see, if you have a populist leader, here's the thing, a populist leader that is big enough and has enough support is allowed to do just about anything. The laws be damned.
I remember under the PP administration a couple of years ago when it had the SOE, this particular businessman who business in hydration, right? Provides hydration. And he on a phone call with Fazir. And this man said that morning that the SOE needs to come to an end. And that evening,
It came to an end?
it came to an end. And I was like, but really? What? So the power these fellas don't care to be in the front line. Like they have arms to reach any position they want to reach. And effect something they want to say, hey, listen, come and check my our meeting. You need to get so and so done.
That's what I said. The nature of our functioning as a country, it's not in the powers that be best interest to upset that apple cart. It works well for them as is. We aren't a free market design. They are already at the top. What more they want? Yeah, and it kind of came in from the colonial society where it was already kind of segregated in that way. So you came in and took the top colonial position. Why are you going to try to upset this and put people on this whole free market, everything free kind of? No. Let the majority of them stay in the public service where we take the natural resources, money of the country, dump it into the public service salaries, but the public servant salaries are only consumption based because we leave them just at the bracket of society where they can't really increase their net worth. It's all money to be spent. So if I take cash from natural resources, give it to a group of people that could only spend it as consumers, where does the money end up?
Need a militant.
What it is, it's a small club.
And you're not in it.
Not invited. Like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing?
Who gonna support the militant nationalists?
That's the thing. It's. I don't think it's impossible, innit? But it just has to be somebody who is smart enough to know how to. It's not something that you see somebody launch a party and they name the party some three-letter rubbish and then they invite people to attend meetings. No, that's not how that kind of thing generally happens. The problem though in a country like Trinidad and Tobago is I feel like if somebody is attempting to genuinely go down that line. We live in a dangerous country. Don't never forget that.
That is true. Quick question though. Do you think a political leader, a prime minister, or whatever, putting all that pressure on the business community would be beneficial to the country? Or do you not see them just packing up their stuff and just like, we taking away factories and gone?
What kind of pressure? Putting what kind of pressure you mean?
No, I just saying like how we talking about all this transformation thing and freeing up the markets or whatever. Well, I don't have a problem with freeing up the market. Of course I do. But obviously, I don't know, just saying.
Here's the thing.
Like
but if
disclose profits or
here's what I'm going to say on that. If it is that somebody leaves a market when it becomes free that means their business wasn't efficient in the first place and it wasn't giving the country maximum benefit. And hopefully a more efficient business takes their place. If it is that the country has to keep paying you some money, keep subsidizing you, keep a certain class of people down in a certain area for your business to work, then your business shouldn't work. And a more efficient, effective business plan should take your place. And I don't think the country would lose for that. For example, I've heard it said before, the too big, that's kind of like the too big to fail argument they made in 2008, why they bailed out all of those big banks and investment firms, and then the investment firms paid the heads bonuses for robbing the whole international financial market and collapsing it, causing people's trauma, as it were. And they took the bailout and gave themselves bonuses. Why? Because somebody had that belief that they're too big to fail. We can't afford for this. How could this company that we know the name of for the last 200 years fall? And then we don't know. Let it fall. Let a new company grow up in its wake.
We had one right here. Clico.
Yes. Let them fall. And listen, as they fall, some smaller company will buy up Trin City Mall. Some company will buy up their housing investments. Some company will buy up whichever other malls they own. Some company will buy up the insurance part. They will be, don't worry, they will be cannibalized by other companies. Because once there's money to be made, somebody is going to come to make the money. And don't worry about the investment. There are many trainees with the money to invest. Listen, it was a trainee man basically doing the rock hard business, importing cement from Turkey. All you had to do was facilitate it, and people will do it.
You see, now this kind of begs the question, what type of capitalism would be efficient in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Because, we don't necessarily live within a capitalistic kind of country. We live in a country where it's very centralized. It's almost on the peripheries of socialism, if you wanted to say, because we literally have either state-owned companies, right? And then we have literal companies who are amassing so big that they literally have pub companies now, to the point of monopolies, right? So what type of capitalism would be good in this country? Anarcho, laissez-faire, what would actually be sufficient for this small island nation of ours at this point?
I think we need some level of protectionism because of our size. So we can't be just full international free market allowing any international company to come in. I think though within our market, we would have great benefit from a laissez-faire style of capitalism where it's very hands-off, because within our market we have the potential to grow through the Caribbean, and we could be we already are, but we could grow more as the main economic hub of the Caribbean. Resources don't matter for that. And the reality of us already having a head start on it is going to put us in the advantage once we don't stifle it. So I would say more laissez-faire, where it's more hands-off, not too much thumbs on the scale choosing winners and losers. Yes, protectionism, as in we don't want US companies to come and flood our market, because we won't survive that.
Is Trinidad and Tobago having an economic downturn? Is it really? Because I am seeing certain companies building and expanding and
Trinidad most definitely has a lot of money. That's without a doubt. And I haven't seen the construction industry contract as much as a country with a financial downturn would be. The construction industry is still pumping. Buildings are flying up. HVAC is as busy as ever. Construction is as busy as ever. So
this is the only country I've seen that. One second only, or this is the only country I've seen they spoke about economic downturn, and a particular bank was building new branches during our economic downturn. Like how that making sense?
Well, the reality that they always talk about with Trinidad is we have a massive black market going on also. So everything that is passing through Trinidad isn't on the books.
Agreed.
Well,
So that's why, as you were talking about earlier, it's very difficult to find ownership in Trinidad. And you see a mall. Who owned this mall? Who owned this building?
Next time I go be highway. Next time I go be highway past Trin City Mall, look and see what building across the road from Trin City.
That's an Extra Foods, I believe.
I think I was passing near Brentwood.
Yes, Brentwood has a massive building going up too.
With stepmother, I was like, who owned it? I was like, what do you mean? It's not a regular man living in the back of Edible 500. Let's be real. It's either a Sapka or I think I was like, come on, man. The building at Wendy's right there.
And listen also, people, because there are certain names that are very familiar to us, we call them and stuff. But there are names of very wealthy people that aren't as on the tip of the tongue as everyone else. But that doesn't change their influence. Just keep that. Find out who owns Price Club. That whole mall. Endeavor Holdings.
Literally, you could literally say they have big influence in Central. Talking about that. Why are you doing this, man? Listen, man.
See if that name sounds familiar to a minister of old.
Oh my gosh. So the question is it only a particular group of people in the country feeling the so-called economic downturn?
That's kind of always the truth, eh?
I mean, listen. To me, the people who feel the most out of any economic situation of a country has to be a middle class that seem to always be stuck in the middle of everything. Because let's be real, your poor class ain't going not a where, not a dime, not a place. They can't move nowhere, they can't be nowhere else but there. Your wealthy people will be wealthy. If they could pick up and leave, they could pick up and leave, right? But your middle class people who seem to not know where to turn, always that he wants to feel something. That's why every politician talks about the middle class. Every politician talks about the middle class. The middle class is the middle class. Because the middle class seems to be the group of people that get things done or shift something in a country. So it has to be a middle class that feels the economic brunt of all of this thing. Literally.
Where's the middle class bracket in Trinidad?
I mean, if you go down international standards in terms of money, then that will be in between somewhere like 35 to maybe 120.
Right? $35. So
yeah, it could be 35, 40 K per year to 120 K per year.
Like, is that construction worker?
I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, construction worker, nurses.
Construction workers are working class, not middle class, because of the type of work they do. But in terms of salary, many places in the world, construction workers, their salary may qualify for a middle class level of salary.
Maybe even higher. But anyway, I think I forgot what it was.
The rate, as I see here, 15 to 25,000 is lower middle class. 25 to 40,000, this is monthly salary, is middle class. 25 to 40 is square in middle class. Upper middle is 40 to 70. So from 15 to 70 is the range of middle class from lower to upper. So 15 is teachers entering, higher level teachers entering at 15. 70 is executive by and large.
Damn.
You're working class. Below middle class is working class.
Okay, cool. At least I'm in a class. I was gonna say, I think the people who feel the downturn, the economic downturn, a lot of those people are people who, I don't want to say live beyond their means, because sometimes it's not even like a means situation, but I do think that there are decisions that they could have made different to make their life less difficult. Now, I would say I believe that the government of the country decides to, oh God, I'm not with this properly to not offend people. They reward people who make mistakes earlier in life and not people who make mistakes later. So, let's see. Early in life, I decided I would go to school, I would stay in school, and I would get a job. I did the correct thing, but then I got the job, I ended up in a bad relationship, I ended up with several children, I can't pay my rent or whatever. The government will watch you and tell you, well, you have a job, we can help you. You don't do what we need you to do to get the help that we can give. But if you make a mistake early in life, you didn't finish school, or you didn't do good in school, or whatever, you don't have a job, they'll fly and help you, which to me is very wrong. I don't think, but granted, I do believe that help should have a time frame. Regardless of when you make a mistake, it should definitely have a time frame. Whether it's we could only help you for 6 months, or we could only help you for 3 months, or we could only help you for a year. There are people who literally live off of help. They live off of social services for years. They don't do nothing better. Since when URP needed to provide maternity leave, that's crazy to me. You're not supposed to be in URP so long that you could benefit from maternity leave. That's wrong. So it's a real complicated situation, and decisions have a lot to do with it. I think they shouldn't be punished for making certain decisions. I think everybody should be able to benefit from some help when they need it, and it should definitely come with some stipulations, especially a time frame.
Agreed.
It's like, I know doing some maths. So we're saying this. When I was working in people construction, I was making upper middle class money. It can't be that like madness.
Possibly was. Who said
70,000 per month is the top of upper middle class, eh? So
per month?
yeah, per month. It's not per year. It's per month. They're calculating here.
I know want to know well what going on.
It's per month. It's per month. So 15,000 per month is the lower end, while 70,000 per month is the higher end. Lower middle class, 15 to 25. That will be teachers, senior servicemen. Those would be the lower middle class. Middle class square in there, plenty doctors, professionals, regular lawyers. Upper middle class would be senior professionals by and large, government ministers, that kind of thing.
I know some fishermen making that kind of money.
Well, there are some doubles men clearing 70,000 a month easy, but business is business. Business could make a whole lot of money if your business is effective. So, and well, when it comes to fishermen in Trinidad,
yeah, but you see, I guess we could come fit more going down. If we can't call it doubles my own business. You know, our business is a profitable thing by its very nature, or unprofitable thing, right? So, you know.
But the doubles business not registered hotel.
Well, sure, but if Ravi doubles clearing 70K a month, Brethren is literally in a class where he could sit down in one woodbrook place and clink glasses with His Excellency. What are we talking about, Margaret?
you know what goes on though? People in the poorer classes in Trinidad sometimes are not aware of how many people live in those classes. There are lots of people in Trinidad. Like, it's not just a handful. There are lots of people in Trinidad making around 70,000 per month. There are a significant number of people in Trinidad clearing over 100,000 each month. There are very wealthy people in this country. But if you are out here making 4,500 when the month come, and everybody in your circle around that level, it could feel like, nah, no way somebody is clearing, 70. Who need all that money? Yes, there are many people doing
I
it.
need it.
But the nature of wealth and earning is the systems are created to use it, because you don't dance in the same party when you go up wealth levels. So if you have to maintain your minimum level apartment and just the internet bill, that's one. But when you have multiple homes and if you watch just more expensive homes, just the electricity bill alone in a more expensive home might be something struggling for somebody in a lower class. Then when you see 4 expensive cars in the garage, the maintenance and all of those things. So when you raise a level, the amount required raises with you. The amount required you're never going to reach a level of wealth where there aren't things within your wealth bracket for you. It's just created like that.
You need to put entrepreneurship not just in Form 6. And it's a Form 6 thing right now.
You know, Abdul, do I find the last generation, let me look to wrap up, it's 11:40, but I find the last generation, Gen Z, the 18 to 30s, there's a lot of entrepreneurship in them, you know. There's a lot. I think personally, you see that one statement from Imbert on that is not real business to import and sell while increasing the online tax. I think they did it 2 times consecutively. That killed entrepreneurial spirit. That killed some, but there's a lot. There's a lot. Nearly every young person I know has some business idea, and many of them are attempting it. And a business idea, because the entrepreneurship, I think, that trickled down to them now isn't the same thing that we had in the 90s and some in the 80s and stuff, where a businessman is a man who has to put out a 200,000 investment and buy a building and outfit the building and open a business with a registered name and logo and get a trademark with the R sign. And no. You just have something that other people want and they're willing to pay for that. Wow, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
Closing remarks, folks. Let's dive out. No closing remarks. Look at that.
We did.
Well, I would just like to say it was lovely tonight. I didn't mean to buffle you up. I was really long. But just to end off on this entrepreneurship thing, I believe I've seen UTT offer an entrepreneurship program. I see Arthur Lovejack has an entrepreneurship program. I think those things are scams. I don't think that you could teach anybody how to be an entrepreneur. Of course, the person would have the mindset or the will or whatever. You might want to refine it, but you can't teach anybody how to be an entrepreneur. Just me. And I would love to say congratulations to all the young people. All of the young people around me have businesses, even if it's just doing hair, nails. They may not have the big showroom and storefronts and all of these things, but they do anything. And trust me, they'll be making real money. I wish I didn't know how to do hair. I wish I didn't know how to do nails. I wish I didn't know how to do makeup. Then people be making if you have a child, pull them out of that medical school right now.
Hello. We don't advise this over at Mindful Education. The views and opinions expressed by the panel are not necessarily those of Mindful and our Mindful Education team. Carry on, Ronnie.
Probably Mindful Education. Well, y'all could teach some those courses, you know, because no, trust me, how much doctors we had, they had a report how much 500 and something doctors unemployed waiting for employment, and plenty. I went to class, I was in class, a baking class with a girl who's a doctor. She said as soon as she finished she class, she going and leave the people work. She's a doctor, and she had a work, she was working in the hospital, she's a doctor. and she was leaving for work to go and bake cake.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
There's money in trade, there's money in working with your hands.
When the baking thing, when it matters, you think the work for she could run right back to being a doctor. You see how that work? That's how it does work.
Well, okay, I guess if you're a terrible baker, that would happen, but
No, she business model just be ridiculous, and it wouldn't work out for she because all bakers aren't rich, all bakers don't make it. So she could run right back to be a doctor because all doctors have make back. Simple.
well, not all doctors make bank. A lot of them are home waiting for a job.
That's fine, but she's a doctor, right? She said she left the hospital to come and
To be fair, the course that I was doing was very high end, and it was more like, Lux cakes kind of thing. It wasn't no, you're going to cake. It wasn't no.
It's but was she going to open up a whole luxury baking company? I'm trying to understand. Or she
But it doesn't matter what she was going to do. She had her business. She does bake. She does do her baking and whatever. She's good at it, which is why she invested in me first, because it was an investment. That was a heavy investment. And she realized that, okay, I could make more money if I improved my skill.
And Hannah, for people who don't know, you don't know. But from point A in doctor to point B is a hard journey.
Especially as a woman too, because they do what
Starting off and I mean you get good pay, but it's not like you get executive pay. And starting off till the point where you're that comfortable consultant in the Benz coming in for just 2 hours a day, that's a long, hard journey. It's a long, hard journey. And some people would prefer another one, and I don't blame them at all. Yeah, Hotep or Abdul, who's next?
Yeah, man, listen, man. Be mindful, not mindless. It's just always a thing out of for day. We definitely going forward with the Ministry of Government Transformation. We're about to try to see how much money we can stop this wasteful government from spending and mismanagement. So I'm that for that. That's a thing in 2030 we're going to get on to, because the vision 2020 is over in 2025. So the vision 2030 is there. We're going to make sure. Because UNC is not going to win an election until like 2030. So let's be real about that. It's all on the PNM that we got in for, because the UNC ain't touching our place in that government. So the PNM is the ones we are got in for in terms of mass misspending. So we there with them. We trying to put an axe to the entirety of the government. And I talk about you.
I want to know who's your we.
It's like Rooney sits in Tobago as a public servant and eats out of the tax dollars. So we don't know. We don't know that, right?
Wow.
We all put in our chainsaw to government.
No problem with that, honestly.
No, I don't care about that.
I am still good. If you
Rudy.
come tomorrow, I good. Just give me my visa, and I good. I gone. I was saying, kept an offer in here to leave the work. You see what Trump do? He offered the people and them to leave the work. I was the person like.
All I'm saying is, Trinidad will be way better off if our tax dollars aren't being spent and waste like this. I'm just being honest with y'all. You understand? I sure you will be good with our $5,000 stipend of your own tax dollars that have been wasted in this country. All will do well with $5,000 every month. So let me read. We got in for that 2030 Ministry of Government Transformation. The PNM is all in sniper focus because it's only them now. Come on, let's be real. They're going to be the ruling party for like the next 15 years. It's just a must, So let's put in China. We are China. So at this point, we are a one-party nationalist state. Because Kamala don't let her go of that spot, boy. Kamala don't let her go, boy. She does not let her go.
But she will die eventually.
So she effectively making it. Well, that was it. She not gonna die now, like the next 15 years.
Why not? She might die soon.
Oh, that's crazy. Do not call it a tactic. Please do not call it a tactic.
I never call it a just saying, she could.
Tanticams look like she got and bat a little while,
How much she's needing?
About 20 years.
Yeah, nah. Certain liquids is preserved. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm done.
I'm done too. I done riding. Long live Tanti Cams. I do not wish that on my former Prime Minister or First Lady Prime Minister. Tanti Cams. Much respect. Go ahead there, Abdul.
Listen, right? Journey with them, I don't think we need Doge. We don't need no billionaire trying to dictate we pace out here too much on the sidelines. What we need is a leader who wants some nationalist business.
We literally have
nationalists right now.
Any place.
Yeah?
Literally have billionaires now. Like Rowley is a legitimate.
Nah, forget them fellas. Them fellas is just yes men. Need a little militant nationalist
It's crazy.
who about nation building and that we focusing on. The militancy who inflated our finance and pat down before you end up somewhere.
Oh, excuse?
You need that Thomas Sankara right now. That's what we need.
What?
But you saw Sankara end though, eh? That was literally the point I was making, Abdul. You know, to an extent, I agree with you because I am not a revolutionary. I don't like the idea of revolutions. But I am okay with a revolutionary leader, as in someone who comes into power in a normal way, not in a revolutionary by and large, but they're willing to lead from the front and change the outlook of the country. And Mr. Sankara, from what I read, he was going down a kind of slightly positive road. And the reality is, to get things done, you need to get things done. Getting things done requires mashing some corn, to be clear. But the problem is, in a system like ours, mashing too much corn will get you corned.
Yeah.
So Sankara, I believe the chopper Peabody, you know, his parents never got a funeral for him, you know. So
He says,
To push it like Patrice Lumumba, what are we talking about? Listen, if the leaders aren't willing to die for their country, what is the point of being a servant?
but I'm really not about that life.
Duke not about that life either. Yes, you could kind of tell men who are more about that life. Guys, for one, anyone who is extremely interested in luxurious living will not be about that life.
I'm not about that life either.
That's why we don't want no women leaders. All right, people, let me go. Thank you for joining. This has been the This has been the Mindful Live Show. I hope you had getting informed or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you guys again tomorrow for the next session around that 9:30 p.m. time. Hopefully we jump in earlier. Till then, hold it down. Stay good, stay well, stay inside, outside sketchy. I'm gone. Later.